told him he should do the cooking now because I am busy with work. Now I am divorced. My name is Carl. It's a short form of my name, and for personal and private reasons, all other names I use here will be fake. I am 26 years of age. Also, I work as an event planner. It was at an event I had gone to work 3 years ago I got to meet Alex. He was the best man of the bridegroom. At first glance, I had been drawn to his looks and charming smile. To be honest, I was charmed by him on the spot, even though he hadn't noticed me then. I remembered him coming to me and asking me if I could plan an event for his company, since he liked how the wedding had been perfectly done. That was what led us to start talking, and then ended up dating for a couple of months before finally getting married. Alex, my husband, worked as a freelance writer, which gave him a flexible schedule. He would often work from home, which I thought was great since he could take care of the household chores and cook dinner while I was away at events. He seemed to enjoy his work, writing articles and blog posts for various clients. As much as he cared and loved me, I noticed that he didn't really do much at home. He didn't even help with cleaning or cooking when I was out there working. I would leave him working on his laptop and still come back late with him still hitting away on his laptop. Honestly, I have no single idea about how this writing works, but then nothing should prevent him from helping me out sometimes. Looking back, I realize he had way too much free time on his hands. He would often take long breaks, saying he needed to research or meet with clients, and that was what pissed me off, and I told him he should do the cooking now because I am busy with work. Now I am divorced. Don't be surprised about that. Yes, we ended up divorcing. He brought the divorce letter and told me to sign it, which I did without thinking about it twice, and now I am regretting what I did. Everything started when I told him to do the cooking. I had come home from work in the evening so stressed out, I saw that the dishes were not washed, and washing the dishes and cooking after was going to add to my already stressed out state. And there, my husband was writing on his desk. I was sure he hadn't even known I entered the room. I told him to do the cooking while I washed the dishes, and he just waved off my request with a void expression. That got me so pissed off that I didn't know I reacted too much by throwing my heels at him, but ended up hitting the screen of his laptop, which ended up damaged. That was the first time I had seen him so angry and beastly that he almost hit me but didn't. He said he only had some hours left to submit a pitch for a client before the deadline ended, and I had ended up making him lose a gig. He was in so much pain that night that he left home. He said I didn't understand his line of work and thought he was always lazing around the house the whole day while I went to work. Days passed, and I was still reeling from the fight with Alex when I met Ben. He was this super charming and successful guy from Chicago who needed my help planning a corporate event. We met at a coffee shop, and I was immediately drawn to his warm smile and easygoing nature. I mean, who wouldn't be? He was like a breath of fresh air after being stuck in a rut with Alex. We started talking about the event, but before I knew it, we were sharing stories and laughing like old friends. I felt a connection with him that I hadn't felt in ages. And yeah, I know it was wrong to feel that way, especially since I was a full-fledged married woman. But I couldn't help it. I was lonely, and he was charming. We started texting each other, and at first it was all about the event. But soon we were sharing our hopes and dreams, our fears and insecurities. It was like we had known each other for years. And before I knew it, we were meeting in secret, sneaking around like teenagers. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't help myself. I was addicted to the way he made me feel. After the event, I thought that would be it. That is, I'd done my job, and Ben would go back to his life in Chicago. But nope, we just couldn't seem to cut ties. He'd text that we should meet up after my work hours, and we'd meet for coffee or lunch or even just a quick drink. Sometimes when I denied his request not wanting to meet with him, he'd come up with some excuse about needing to discuss business or future events, but I knew it was just a ruse. And honestly, I didn't care. I was having the time of my life. We'd laugh and joke and just enjoy each other's company. It was like we'd known each other for a long time, not just a few weeks. And before I knew it, we were meeting up every week, sometimes even twice a week. I'd tell myself it was just harmless fun, but deep down, I knew it was more than that. I was falling for him, hard, and I could tell he felt the same way. We'd catch each other's eye and just know what the other was thinking. It was like we had our own little world, our own little secret, and I was addicted to it. I knew I should end it. I was still married after all, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I can't even believe it happened. One minute we were laughing and joking in his car. The next, well, let's just say we got a little too close for comfort. We got caught up in the moment, in our own wrong little world. Things happened so fast, everything around us was blurry. That moment, nothing else mattered except for the two of us. But as soon as it was over, reality hit us like a ton of bricks. We both knew we'd crossed a line, and we didn't know how to go back. The guilt and shame were suffocating me. I kept thinking about my husband, and how I'd betrayed him in the worst possible way. And Ben, well, he just disappeared. No more texts, no more calls, no more nothing. It was like he vanished into thin air. I was left to deal with the aftermath of our little tryst, alone and confused. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. I was so ashamed. And the worst part? I knew I'd never be able to go back to the way things were before. I decided to settle things with Alex, who was trying to be distant from me, to show how hurt he was by my actions, because I later realized he lost the client and his gig. He couldn't even get his pay for some work he had done for him in the past. I apologized to him after he had come back from meeting a client and prepared his favorite dish. I didn't mind that I would continue doing the cooking and dishes alone. I just wanted my old husband back. That night, I pleased him, and I was happy that he laughed with me and then ranted to me about his experience with his clients. I made sure that we made love that night and pleasured him to his satisfaction. I was willing to do whatever it took to make things right between us, but little did I know he was just biding his time, waiting for the perfect moment to drop the bombshell. At first it was just little things. He'd mention a work trip here and there, and I'd believe him, of course. I mean, why wouldn't I? He's my husband, and I trust him. But then, he started getting more and more frequent. He'd say things like, "I'm heading to New York to meet with a potential client. Gotta make some connections." Or, "I'm off to Los Angeles to get some inspiration for this new project." And I'd be like, "Okay, babe, have a safe trip." But then, he'd mention Daisy. Oh, Daisy. She was this real estate agent who needed a writer to work with her. And apparently, Alex was the only one who could do the job. He'd say things like, Daisy needs him to meet up with her in Chicago to discuss the project. Or he is heading to Miami to work with Daisy on this new campaign. And I'd feel this pang of jealousy, but I'd push it aside. I mean, he's just working, right? But the truth is, I had no idea what he was really doing on those trips, and I didn't want to know. I just wanted my happy marriage back. I wanted us to go back to the way things were before, when we'd laugh and joke together, when we'd share our hopes and dreams. But deep down, I knew that the chances of that ever returning fully were slim. And then one day, he dropped the bombshell. He came home from one of his trips and told me he needed space. He said he was feeling suffocated. And I was like, what's going on? What's wrong? But he just shook his head and said he needed time to figure things out. I was surprised and eventually left in a state of shock. I felt like my world was crashing down around me. I didn't know what to do, so I did the only thing I could think of. I gave him space. I let him have his time, hoping that he'd come back to me, that he'd realize he loved me and want to work things out. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, I realized that was never going to happen. He was gone, and he wasn't coming back. I wondered why he suddenly distanced himself from me. He wouldn't even touch the food I cooked for him or sleep on the same bed with me. One night I had tried to touch him. He had said he was tired and packed some of his stuff to the other room. I thought it was Daisy that took him away. He was a man, and spending time with another woman could warm his heart to her and have an affair with her. I thought he was cheating. I didn't even think he cheated. I believed he was cheating because he was always on the phone every night, and I knew it was none other than Daisy. I wanted to tell someone about my troubles, but didn't even want to involve our families into this. I didn't want the matter to get out of hand, and involving our friends would be like giving them the latest topic to gist about, and I decided to do this. For the first time in months, I texted Ben. I wanted us to see. He replied hours later and said he was going to call me soon. He did call, and he sounded so excited on the phone, and he proposed we meet in his office. When I arrived at his workplace, I realized that he was the director of this big law firm. Oh, I didn't mention he was a lawyer earlier. I saw him in a new light, and the way he told his workers to respect me gave me the thrills and the affection I had for him rekindled. I asked him why he never texted or called, and he made me know that he didn't wish to ignore me, but he saw that I felt guilty that day of our affair and didn't want me to do things against my wish. When he asked me why I had come to see him, I didn't tell him that my marriage was collapsing. I just told him I missed him. As we sat in his office, I couldn't help but feel a spark reignite between us. The way he smiled at me, the way he leaned in when I spoke, it all felt so familiar and yet so thrilling. We chatted for a bit, catching up on each other's lives, and then he asked me if I'd like to grab lunch with him. I agreed, and we walked to a nearby cafe, enjoying the warm sun on our skin and the gentle breeze. As we sat down at a cozy table, he reached across and took my hand. We talked some more, laughing and joking like we used to, and I felt myself getting lost in his eyes. It was like no time had passed at all, and yet everything had changed. We started meeting up regularly, always in secret, always with a sense of excitement and rebellion. We'd steal glances at each other, hold hands when no one was looking, and exchange sweet texts when we were apart. I couldn't believe I was doing this again. Sneaking around, lying to my husband, risking everything for a thrill. It was like I was trapped in some kind of toxic cycle, but there was something about Ben that drew me in, something that made me feel alive. We'd meet in secret, and to be honest, these secret meetings were filled with so much passion and excitement. I felt like I was living a double life, one foot in my comfortable but loveless marriage, the other in this all-consuming affair. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once, like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, prone to fall at any time. Ben was everything my husband wasn't, exciting, passionate, attentive. He made me feel seen and heard in a way that I hadn't felt in years. He'd listen to me for hours, his eyes locked on mine, his fingers tracing patterns on my skin. He'd make me laugh, make me cry, make me feel like I was home. And yet, I knew it was wrong. I knew I was playing with fire, risking everything for this illicit thrill, my marriage, my reputation, my very sense of self. All of it was on the line, but I couldn't help myself. I was addicted to the way Ben made me feel, addicted to the excitement he enchanted. We'd meet in hotel rooms, in parked cars, in hidden corners of the city. We'd steal glances at each other, our hands touching accidentally as we walked side by side. It was like we were teenagers again, sneaking around and going to parks to do things we had longed for so much. But we weren't teenagers. We were adults, with responsibilities and consequences. And I knew that eventually, our secrets would catch up with us. Eventually the truth would come out and my world would come crashing down, but I couldn't stop. I was in too deep, too far gone. And one day it all came crashing down, my marriage, of course. That evening I came home and met the surprise of my life. Alex was drinking way too hard. He wasn't really a good drinker. He gets drunk so easily, but there on the couch I met him. I was concerned and went to him in worry to ask him what had gone wrong, and he just flung my hands away, calling them dirty. He threw some pictures at me, and when I checked them, it was me and Ben in it. He lashed out that he didn't know I was so cheap and gutsy to meet another man in his back. I was so terrified that night and asked how he knew. He said that he had known I had an affair behind his back because he had come across a text on my phone that said I should hide the affair from my husband. I remembered it was the last text Ben had sent after our first affair before he stopped texting. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to maintain my pride and told him he was cheating on me too with Daisy, and he just laughed and flung me his phone, telling me to read his texts. When I checked, all his conversations were work-related, nothing out of context, and they didn't always travel alone. They always traveled in groups with other writers in the project, and this left me embarrassed. Firstly, he knew I was cheating on him, and secondly, I thought I could use the fact of he and Daisy's affair to defend my actions, but it was debunked instantly. I left home embarrassed that evening and went to a nearby hotel where I cried and called Ben to inform him about what I was going through. He initially wanted to come to him, but I declined. I didn't want to see him, not that night or ever again. I just wanted him to know that I was in distress. Not that Ben had anything to lose if he broke up with him. He didn't have a wife. When I went back home, Alex already packed my bag by the door, and of course, I didn't expect him to though, but I was glad he did. He relieved me of the stress of packing my things myself, and he couldn't even stop glaring at me for once. He dropped me the divorce letter and told me to think about it carefully and sign it. I signed it and left him. That day we divorced. I'm still looking for where to stay, but right now I'm staying at Lauren's house. She's the only one I trust to keep her mouth shut. I need advice, and that's why I'm making this post on Reddit. What should I do? I can't go back home to my husband, and I don't even know what to do with Ben because I still like him. Can I get honest advice, please? Update. I see a lot of comments judging me and even having the effrontery to call me bad names. I know some of you are going to say I'm selfish, reckless, and stupid. And yeah, I've already seen some of those comments in my previous post. But let me tell you, they don't get to me. I've developed a thick skin, and I know that people are just jealous of my courage. I mean, who stays in a loveless marriage just to please society? Not me. I'd rather take a chance on happiness, even if it doesn't work out. At least I tried. At least I acknowledged that my marriage was broken and took steps to fix it, even if that meant ending it. And to all the people saying I'm a homewrecker or a cheater, let me tell you, my marriage was already broken. I just acknowledged it and moved on. I didn't cheat on my husband because I wanted to hurt him. I did it because I wanted to feel alive. And yeah, it was a mistake, but it was also a wake-up call. I'm not going to apologize for my choices. I'm not going to apologize for being human. And I'm definitely not going to apologize for seeking happiness. If that makes me selfish, then so be it. I'd rather be selfish and happy than selfless and miserable. I'm tired of people judging me without knowing the full story. I'm tired of people assuming they know what's best for me. And I'm tired of people trying to bring me down just because I'm trying to lift myself up. So go ahead and hate. Go ahead and comment. But at the end of the day, I'm still going to be living my best life, and you're still going to be stuck in your own misery. I'm still not engaging with hate comments. But I do want to say thank you to all the people who dropped kind comments. Your kind words and encouragement mean the world to me. Keep shining, and let's rise above the haters together. I just wanted to add that I'm not looking for sympathy or validation. I'm just sharing my story in the hopes that it might help someone else who's going through a similar situation. So let's keep the conversation civil and supportive, okay? I just had to share this with you all because I'm still fuming. So I was talking to Lauren I thought was a friend, and they told me that I should just apologize to my ex and try to work things out. First of all, I've already tried that multiple times, and it didn't work. Because my ex doesn't want to work on our relationship. He just wants me gone, and honestly, I don't want to keep embarrassing myself in front of him. Nope. And secondly, why should I apologize for seeking happiness? Why should I apologize for leaving a marriage I know wouldn't even work out in the end? He already knows I cheated, and he won't even look at me the way he used to. I know it. It's like people think I'm just going to go back to my ex and be like, "Oh, sorry I cheated on you. Let's just forget about it and move on." No, that's not how it works. I'm done with people trying to tell me what I should do with my life. I'm done with people judging me for my choices. And I'm definitely done with people trying to guilt trip me into going back to a relationship that ended in a mutual agreement. If only someone can just understand what I'm really trying to point out. If you're going to give me advice, at least make it constructive. At least make it supportive. Otherwise, just keep your opinions to yourself. I know some of you are going to say, but what about forgiveness? And trust me, I really haven't forgiven myself, and I'm sure Alex will probably not forgive me. But forgiveness doesn't mean going back to a relationship that ended. It entails moving on and forgetting things that happened. Update. You guys, I am still trying to process what just happened. So, I was talking to someone who told me that I should just talk to Ben and clear the air if he still wanted us together. Like, okay, maybe that's a good idea. Maybe we can have a civilized conversation and move on. Maybe we can even laugh about it and be friends. So I got to Ben's office nervous, and then I found out from his coworkers that he's married. Like, what? I couldn't believe it. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. All this time, I thought Ben was single, available, and interested in me. But no, he's been lying to me from the start. He's been playing me like a fool. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I'm still trying to process my emotions. But one thing is for sure. I am done with Ben. I am done with liars and cheaters. Not that I'm an exception and people who don't care about me. And to the person who told me to talk to Ben, thanks for the advice, I guess. But maybe next time, do your research before telling someone to confront their soulmate. Maybe next time, consider the fact that the person might be a manipulative liar. I'm still shaking with anger and hurt. I've lost from both sides. I didn't believe Ben could do this to me, and I already left Alex. I just wanted to add that I'm not looking for sympathy or pity. I'm just sharing my story in the hopes that it might help someone else avoid a similar situation. So let's keep the conversation real and honest. You guys, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm regretful. I'm regretful for divorcing my husband. I'm regretful for cheating on him. And I'm regretful for thinking that the grass was greener on the other side. Being alone has given me a lot of time to reflect on my actions, and I realize now that I made a huge mistake. My husband wasn't perfect, but he loved me, and I loved him. We had a good life together, and I threw it away for something that didn't even exist. Ben was a lie and a distraction. He didn't even love me, and I had given him my soul and my affection. He made me lose Alex. I miss my husband. I miss our life together, and I miss the love we shared. If only I could go back in time, I would do things differently, and I would work on our marriage, communicate better, and appreciate what we had, and even understand our differences. But as we know, life doesn't give you do-overs, and now I'm left to piece together the broken parts of my life that are left. So I decided to try and follow the advice from the comment session that talked about not going to Alex for an apology, but to meet with his family and come clean to them, and I did just that. You guys, I'm still reeling from what just happened, so I went to Alex's family's house, hoping they could forgive me and help me talk to Alex, even if we wouldn't come back together, but to just forgive me. They didn't even let me in the door. They just stood there, looking at me with anger and disgust, and told me they knew what I did. They knew I cheated on their son. I guess Alex didn't waste time in telling them that we were over and just needed to submit the letter at the court to finalize our separation. And they were angry. They were angry at me for hurting their son, for breaking up his marriage. I tried to explain, I tried to tell them the truth, but they wouldn't listen. They just kept saying I was a homewrecker, a cheater, and a liar. And you know what? I don't blame them. I would be angry too if I were in their shoes. I wouldn't even want to get back together with me if it was possible. Honestly, it's hard to hear, and it's also hard to face the consequences of my actions. I'm trying to own up to my mistakes, to take responsibility for my choices. So it's clear now that I'm not welcome in their lives, and that's okay. I don't expect forgiveness, not yet, maybe not ever. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has been supporting me through this. It means a lot to me and to Alex's family. I understand your anger, and I respect it. I hope someday we can have a more honest conversation. Update. Hey guys, I'm being honest with you. The past few days have been tough. I thought I was doing okay, but the constant barrage of negative comments online is getting to me. I know I shouldn't read them. I know I shouldn't let them get to me, but it's hard when it feels like the whole world is against you. People are calling me a cheater, a liar, a homewrecker, and it hurts. It hurts because I know I've made mistakes, and I'm trying to own up to them. But what really gets me is when people say I'm only sorry because I got caught, that I'm only sorry because my life is falling apart. That's not true. I'm sorry because I hurt people I care about. I'm sorry because I was blind and stupid, and I'm sorry because I'm human. I know I don't deserve sympathy, but a little kindness would go a long way right now. Also, there's another issue I'm having. Remember Lauren, the friend I'm staying with? So, Lauren just told me that if I can't even go to my parents' house and tell them the truth, then maybe I shouldn't be staying with her, and honestly, I don't blame her. I'm a mess. But here's the thing, I have nowhere else to go. My parents' house is not an option right now. That's a whole other story. And I'm running out of funds fast. Business has been slow, and I'm barely scraping by. I've been thinking of moving to Orange County, California. I know, it's expensive, but I need a fresh start. However, getting a house there is proving to be impossible. Prices are through the roof, and I'd run broke in no time if I use up all my savings. Any advice, guys? Update. I thought I had hit rock bottom before, but I was wrong. Today, I finally worked up the courage to go home and tell my parents everything. I mean, everything. The affair, the divorce, the financial struggles, everything. I was hoping for support, for guidance, for a shoulder to cry on, but what I got was a lecture. A long, painful lecture about how I had destroyed my marriage myself, how I had thrown away a good man, and how I had brought shame to our family. And then, the final blow, they told me not to come home for a while, that I needed to figure out my own life before I could come back to theirs. I'm numb, guys. I'm numb and I'm hurt and I'm angry. I know I don't deserve sympathy, but I thought my parents would be the one place I could find some understanding. I'm starting to feel like I'm running out of options. I met up with a few friends, hoping to borrow some money to get back on my feet. I know I've made mistakes, and I'm not expecting anyone to bail me out. But I thought maybe, just maybe, someone would be willing to help me out. But it seems like everyone's pockets are dry. One by one, they told me they couldn't help me out. Some of them didn't even want to meet up, like they were afraid of being associated with me. I saw the judgment in their eyes, the disappointment, the "how could you be so stupid" look. I get it, I really do. I've made mistakes, and I'm paying for them. But it's hard not to take it personally when it feels like everyone is turning their back on me. It's hard not to wonder if I'll ever be able to get back on my feet, if I'll ever be able to rebuild my life. I've always been the strong one, the one who had it together, but now I'm the one who's falling apart. And it's hard to ask for help, hard to admit that I need it. I know I need to keep trying, but it's hard to keep going when it feels like the whole world is against me. I feel like I'm drowning in my mistakes, suffocating under the weight of my own failures. I just wish someone would throw me a lifeline, just one person who would say, "I believe in you, I'll help you get through this." But it seems like that person is nowhere to be found. I finally worked up the courage to meet Ben in his office, thanks to someone's advice on my last post. I was nervous, but I knew I had to confront him and ask him for help, at least to make up for lying to me. As soon as I walked in, he stood up and smiled, acting like he missed me. He even had the nerve to tell me how beautiful I looked, how much he'd missed seeing me. But I wasn't having it. I told him to drop the act, that I knew exactly what he was. He tried to charm me, to sweet-talk me, but I cut him off. I told him I didn't have time for games, that I needed help, and then I asked him for money. I knew it was a long shot, but I had to try. But what he said next left me speechless. He told me he'd provide me with a house, a beautiful house, if I agreed to keep seeing him privately, like I was some kind of mistress, some kind of secret lover. He even had the nerve to tell me that he'd take care of me, that I'd never have to worry about anything again. I was furious. How dare he think I'd stoop to that level? How dare he think I'd trade my dignity for a roof over my head? I told him no, of course. I told him I'd rather die than be his secret lover. I told him I'd rather struggle on my own than be beholden to him. And then I walked out of his office, leaving him and his audacity behind. I'm still shaking with anger, still trying to process what just happened. But one thing's for sure. I'll never go back to him, never trade my self-worth for anything. I'm done with Ben, done with his lies and his manipulation. I'm done with being treated like some sort of a cheap stock, waiting to be bought at any time. I just wanted to take a moment to thank everyone who has commented on my posts, both the kind ones and the not-so-kind ones. Your words, whether they were harsh or helpful, have made me realize so much about myself and my situation. To those who told me I was stupid, that I deserved what happened, that I was a cheater and a liar, thank you. Your words stung, but they also made me see that I wasn't perfect, that I had made mistakes, and for that I'm grateful. Also, to those who offered me kindness, support, and encouragement, thank you. Your words lifted me up when I needed it most, and reminded me that I wasn't alone. I'm happy to say that I finally found a new place to call home, a beautiful little house that I'm renting using my savings. It's not perfect, but it's mine, and it's a fresh start. I'm also working hard to promote my gigs and get new work. It's not easy, but I'm determined to make it happen. I want to be able to support myself, to stand on my own 2 feet. I wanted to share one last update with you all. Today, I emailed Alex an apology letter. I know, some of you might be thinking, why are you apologizing to him? But hear me out. I realized that I've been carrying around a lot of guilt and shame for my part in our affair. and I needed to let go of that. I needed to take responsibility for my actions and apologize for the hurt I caused him and his family. My email wasn't about trying to get him back or trying to rekindle anything. It was simply about closure. I wanted him to know that I'm truly sorry for my part in everything, and that I hope he can find it in his heart to forgive me. I don't know if he'll respond or if he'll even read it, but I needed to do it for myself. I needed to close this chapter of my life and move on. Thanks for following along on this journey with me, everyone. It's been a wild ride, but I'm glad it's over. Thanks again, everyone. Your words have changed me in ways you'll never know. Goodbye, and good luck to us all.